Hey everyone, we're back again. This video we're going to talk about the ACS3 coil conversion kit installation into the RockShox Lyrik and Yari model forks. Okay, with ACS installation into the Lyrik and Yari, we're going to take into consideration that you have our complete do-it-yourself service kit as well as the complete ACS3 kit. If you just purchased the ACS3 kit because you have a newer fork or a fresh rebuild, then you can obviously just fast forward through the lower leg service aspect of the video. Okay, so for this installation, we're going to be using a 24mm spanner wrench, a 32mm push chamferless socket, a 24mm push chamferless socket. We're using a 3/8 ratchet. We've got a dental pick, a 10mm socket, an 18mm deep socket, 5mm hex key, 2.5mm hex key, a torque wrench, a flat blade screwdriver, snap ring pliers, a tire lever, just a rod for pushing rags into lower legs, and a small tap hammer. Okay, so the first step in this installation is to remove the air cap from the top of the fork and completely depressurize the fork by depressing the Schrader valve. Next, using our 24mm chamferless socket, we're going to remove the air cap from the fork. And set it aside. We will not be reusing that. Next, we're going to use our 2.5mm hex key to remove the set screw on the rebound adjuster and remove the rebound adjuster completely. On the Yari model forks, the rebound adjuster is pressed and snapped in place. So using a little dental pick or like a flat blade screwdriver underneath the rebound adjuster to pop it loose is the technique you want to use there. Next, using our 5mm hex key, we're going to loosen up both foot bolts a few turns, and then using our tap hammer, we're just going to tap those bolts to separate the lower legs from the upper assembly. And then completely remove those foot bolts, which will allow us to slide the lower legs off the upper tubes. Okay, next, we need to remove the retaining ring from the left leg. Much like the Pike, the Lyrik and Yari use a little safety tab to keep the retaining ring ears in place. Use a flat blade screwdriver to just push down on the plastic cap to allow you to expose the retaining ring. Completely remove it. Now you can use one of the foot bolts, just thread into the rod a little bit, just to give you something to hang on to pull the air assembly out. You can set that aside, you won't be reusing that. Now using simple green or isopropyl, easy for me to say, isopropyl alcohol. We use a product from Maxima called Suspension Clean. We're just going to clean the tubes up really well. Before installing our ACS kit. In the owner's manual package of your ACS kit, you'll find a travel indicator O-ring, as well as a new retaining ring. Take those out and remove them from the package. First thing we're going to do is install our travel indicator O-ring onto that left fork tube. Going to take our ACS3 lower plunger assembly out of the box, remove the foot nut and the crush washer that came in the kit. I'm going to take a little bit of SOS lube from our do-it-yourself service kit. I'm going to apply a light film to the inside of the left stanchion tube and a light film to the top of the spring bearing on the ACS kit before I install it. Slide that down into the tube, and then using the retaining ring that came with the ACS3 kit, I'm just going to walk that into place. If the retaining ring is squarely in the groove, you should be able to take a flat blade screwdriver or a dental pick and just easily rotate it around inside that gland. And the rod should move freely up and down. Okay, for the next step, we're going to take our fork spring. On the outside of the fork spring, you'll find a plastic heat shrink tubing, which is just a noise canceling tubing that we put on there to keep it quieter. So we're going to install the fork spring into the leg. In your kit, you also get a preload cap. The preload caps are specific to spring color. So each spring uses a different preload cap. The appropriate preload cap will be in your kit. Simply install that into the fork. Going to take a light film of SOS lube and apply it to the O-ring on the air bump stop unit before we install it. The air bump stop units come pre-charged from push with about 20 psi in them. The range of adjustment on these is 5 to 50 psi. Most riders find 15 to 20, kind of in the appropriate range. So we're going to install the air bump stop unit. And using a torque wrench and our 32 millimeter chamferless socket, we're going to tighten that air bump stop top cap to 250 inch-pounds. Now your upper assembly is all complete and ready to go. So next we're going to replace the fork seals using our tire lever. We're just going to get underneath the fork seal to pry it up, removing the fork seal and the foam ring that's in there. Setting those aside. Again, we want to use a mild cleaner to fully clean the lower leg assembly inside and out. In your do-it-yourself service kit is a new seal kit. We're going to unpackage that and get out the new foam rings and crush washers and seals. I'm going to take out my Maxima suspension fluid bottle, seal driver and syringe. I'm going to fill the cap of the lower leg fluid about 3/4 of the way and submerge the foam rings, the new foam rings, in that fluid so they can absorb that really well. I'm going to take my new fork seals, apply a light film of SOS lube to the inside of the fork seal, install it onto the driver. We recommend installing the fork seals completely clean and dry into the lower leg and making sure that there's no grease or lube either in the lower or on the seal. Going to install the driver into the bushing. Simply tap the fork seal till it's flat. And we're just going to repeat that process on the other side. Light film of fluid on the inside of the fork seal. Install it onto the driver. Oops. Put it into the guide bushing and tap it flat. You will notice that our fork seals have a flange around the outside of the seal, where the stock fork seal is what we call flangeless. The flange allows us to seat the fork seal really square in the lower legs. Next, we need to install the foam rings. We're going to take them out of the bath fluid, stretch them with our fingers a little bit, and install them in the gland below the fork seal. And then we're going to guide the lower legs onto the upper tubes, making sure that the damping rod is pulled up so it's kind of equal with the lower plunger rod of the coil kit. We're going to wiggle these lower legs on. Should be able to move them freely up and down if they're installed properly. Before we cinch things down, we're going to take and add 40 cc's of fluid to our syringe of the Maxima Plush fluid that came in your lower leg kit. And we're going to split that up between the two legs. We're going to install 20 cc's of fluid into the lower leg of both the right and left side. Now we're going to slide the lower legs down until they hit the rods. We're going to reinstall the stock foot bolt on the right leg or the damper leg using our 5mm hex key. Make sure that's tight. And we're going to install our new crush washer and blue foot nut on the left side that came in our ACS kit. We're going to use a 10mm socket to do that. And we're going to tighten it to 70 inch-pounds. Now we're going to, using a 2.5mm hex key, we're going to reinstall the rebound adjuster on the damper side. Okay, so the installation is complete. Now we're going to take a second to clean up the outside of the fork and install our ACS3 decal kit that came in the box. This tells all your friends that you are faster than them. Once those are installed, it's ready to be put back on the bike and ripped down the trail. Thanks.